Hey, good people, I'm your life coach, Shanese Powell, and I noticed that there are way too many individuals either unfamiliar with coaching, unable to afford it, or they're just not aware of how much it can do for their lives. This is why I started the What I Need podcast. The WIN podcast creates a space for people to access, what they need. We explore mental health by bringing awareness to our good and bad habits that help us or hurt us. We're just here to have those kinds of conversations that you need, they need, and what I need. Let's win together, good people. Miss Tionna.
Hi.
How are you? How are you
I'm
doing?
well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I just love your energy. As soon as I get on here, I already feel so happy. I don't
Oh,
know. I don't know if it's the smiles. I don't know. I absolutely love your energy. It's so infectious.
thank you.
And thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm really excited to delve deep into what you do. But before we get into what you do, we want to know, who is Tionna the person? Let's get into that a little bit.
Okay. So I am an Auburn graduate. During Auburn, my time at Auburn interning is actually where I came up with the idea of Novatrian Incorporated. And from there, I am just a bubbly person. I think that's like the one thing that everybody says about me. I'm like very bubbly. I'm very outgoing. I was raised as a military child. So my
Mm,
dad was in the military my entire life up until I was in ninth or 10th grade. And
mm,
so I got a chance to travel all over. We lived in Germany, so I definitely got that culture with me to be able to see different people and areas and get different perspectives. And I think that that has all molded me into who I am.
mm.
I do live here in Atlanta, and that is where Novatrian is headquartered. It will not be the only location for us. So I am very excited for that. But I think overall, I've just always been a person who loves working with children, working with the community. And because of that military background that I have, it's just very much so always been like, okay, like how best can I help the people around me and create the biggest impact for everyone? And
Mhm.
so that is definitely something that I put into Nurturing. Like I always tell people, I always wanted to be the person that I needed when I was younger through my own traumas. And so being able to be that person through the nonprofit that I founded is literally a dream come true.
Mhm. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I
Thank
love,
you.
yes. I love that when I ask you who you are, the person, you just kept talking about Novaturian because that's your baby.
That's
That's
my
your
baby.
baby. So it's a big part of who you are because yes,
Yes.
it is what you do, and I always tell people to differentiate between what they do and who they are because
Right.
we tend to get caught up in our career and the business and all that stuff. But I think the reason why you keep mentioning your baby Novaturian, which we'll get into, is because it speaks to your personality. It speaks to your own passion. It speaks to what you believe is your purpose. Would you say?
Right. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely, and it's funny because I was having a conversation earlier today where I was saying how you really do have to be your own person and have your purpose in your, for me, my organization separately. But a lot of who I am is in, like you said, the organization, and it embodies that. Mostly because I do want the children and the families to feel very safe. And so you have to have you in that. But
Mm-hmm.
besides that, I am still a whole individual. You know what I mean? Like I am very much so I love adventures, and I get that from the military side. I love my university, Auburn University, which is where I say that all the time first. And so you do have to have your own personality and being, but when it's definitely something that you were destined to do and like a road you were destined to be on, a little bit of you is also going to be in that as well. So anytime I talk about who I am, you're gonna hear me, but you're gonna hear Novaturian right after.
Right. I love
Like,
it.
Yes, thank
I love
you.
it. Of course. All right, so tell us a little bit about novaturient. First of all, that word was definitely foreign to me. I had to look it up and see novaturient. I've never heard that word before. But when I
Right.
saw the definition, I was like, this makes sense. I'm like, she thought it through. She
I'm
said,
through.
yes. I'm gonna look up at the dictionary and I'm gonna look through the thesaurus and I'm gonna look for that. I love that word. That's it right there. Novaturient Inc. So tell us, before you tell us what the business is about, define Novaturient for me, please.
So it means desiring change for one's life.
Yeah.
So I actually found that on Pinterest. The name that we have for the organization was taken, and they gave us like 2 weeks to come up with another name. And I remember thinking, like, oh my gosh, I don't want it to be just any name. I want it to embody what we're doing through our organization. And I mean, all of us girls, we scroll through Pinterest just looking at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember out of nowhere, like I had never looked up like word definitions or anything like that before, but Novatrient popped up and I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. Because
Mm-hmm.
I will say, one thing about childhood trauma is one thing that I always tell my kids about childhood trauma. You can either allow your trauma to define you or you can define it.
Woo!
And so that meaning, desiring change for one's life, it just stuck out to me because I was like, a lot of children, by the time they're in this program, they want something different for their lives. They understand that this is either not how it should be or they don't want it to be like this. And they want to progress and they want to have that fullness of life. And
Mm-hmm.
I will say, even a lot of the parents, the first thing they always say is, I wish I had this when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes a meaning of desiring change for your child's life, for the next generation's lives. And so it was just one of those words that I was like, this is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say having a unique word like that is great because you can define it for people because that's the first question. How did you come up with that name? Like, what does it mean? And
Yes.
so when you're able to define it, people are like, okay, I like where this is going. Like, I
Correct.
see what you did. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yes.
It's a great conversation starter. So
Yes.
I hear you mention words like children, trauma, healing. I hear you mention nonprofit. Can we put those words together to define Novaturient Inc.?
Yes. So Nurturing Inc. is a nonprofit organization that was founded to help children and their families begin their healing journey through childhood trauma. As we know now through a lot of studies, childhood trauma can impact our lives significantly. One quote that I love to say is sometimes a child can be so traumatized from an event that developmentally they do not grow past that event. And so, like, that shows just the significance that trauma can have on us. So, imagine now that child never gets help for what they've been through. And it gets to, I think us females say it often, oh my gosh, he acts like he's 13 still.
Mm-hmm.
He acts like he's a child.
Mm-hmm.
Developmentally, they might still be a child because they never had the opportunity to grow past what was so traumatic that now they are literally just in this bubble. You know what I mean? Physically, they develop, but emotionally, developmentally, they're still at same age.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it goes back to having to get therapy to go back to that moment, understand it, and get past it. And so I'm so happy that we're able to offer those therapeutic services to children and their families in our communities because in Atlanta, there are so many children who have seen traumatic experiences, they have witnessed it, they have been in the middle of it, and we don't really offer help for them. We offer mentoring services, we offer after school services, but we're never actually attacking the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, that was a big thing that I noticed. And so when I came back from South Africa for my internship, I was like, oh, I got to start this.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are here 5 years later, and I love it.
I love it. Um, Emotional or lack of emotional intelligence is a pandemic
Yes.
among adults. And
Hmm.
that's why you see terrible communicators trying to communicate, failing at communicating, and it leads to serious problems. That
It's
in one of the last conversations I had with someone, they mentioned just this not being able to communicate properly because of lack of emotional intelligence leads to lives being lost or being
right,
sent to jail.
right. And there's so many juvenile delinquents or just guys in, men in prison that honestly I feel like they should not be there. A controversial case that I always tell people is R. Kelly.
Mm.
R. Kelly was molested when he was younger. He was never
Mm.
taught right or wrong. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So I never agree with a grown man sexually assaulting women.
Correct.
However, when we look back at it, how many people were teaching R. Kelly the right way? How many people were teaching not R. Kelly, but Robert the right way of things, especially through what he had been through?
Mhm.
Because I tell people if he was molested young, he may not have seen an issue with it because that was his life's journey. You know what I mean? And so it's an example of the lack of emotional intelligence that he had because he did not know any better and nobody told him any better. And now I tell people all the time too, he probably was dating and talking to these 15-year-old girls because developmentally he was 15 or 16. You know
Wow.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, now, was it right what he was doing? Absolutely not. Like, I will say I applaud Florida for saying that they want to, do something about men who sexually, or men or women who
Mhm.
sexually assault younger children because it is something that needs to be done.
Mhm.
But before that, what are the steps that we can take to educate and help individuals heal? Because if we look at our generation, we did not understand a lot of things that happened to us until we were our age. We got
Right.
therapy, we started learning these things. So I always look at how many other individuals could have benefited from our services or the education, the proper education to understand the right way of doing things without making them feel bad because of the things that they had experienced.
Beautiful.
So I think
So,
that's where it starts. Yeah.
say again.
I said I think that's where it starts.
So you see the Robert in R. Kelly and speak to the Robert and say, okay, sweetie, let's go back to that moment when you experienced that trauma and let's focus on that and then heal from that so that we can grow developmentally and become more functional adults in the world that don't perform heinous crimes like he did.
Right.
So you don't become the R. Kelly that everybody is so afraid of now. And that is, you know, so kudos to you because I think that's where it really does need to start at the foundation, at the base. I think we attack what we see, but we don't understand the importance of connecting what we see to a much deeper rooted issue, something that
Mhm.
happened way back then in the foundational years of that individual. We just kept ignoring it. We swept it under the rug and we kept moving on in all this trauma. So Novaturient Inc. helps to see the issue from the foundational stages of that person's life from when they're a child and speak to that trauma and have them heal from it. And they do that, or you guys do that through two programs. Can you tell us a little bit about those two programs?
Of course. So our first program is a 12-week program to where we actually help the children to identify what exactly trauma is. That is a question that a lot of kids sometimes don't understand that what they've been through is traumatic. And so first we're identifying what trauma is, the impact that it can have on us, and what are the feelings that are sometimes associated with it. Because I do hate the term, oh, my kid is bad. Is your kid bad, or has your kid been traumatized that they don't really know how to react to what they've been through? And so they're just acting in a manner that is calling for help.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And so we do go through those emotions, like what are the common responses and emotions that come from traumatic events? And then we go through, okay, how can you communicate these emotions that you go through? How can you understand it? How can you identify triggers? Because a lot of times we see things, I know for me personally, the the male touch used to trigger me so bad, and I never understood it until I went in therapy to understand that that is because anytime a guy would like touch me in a way, I went back to 5-year-old me who was being molested by my uncle.
Hmm.
And so we have these triggers that sometimes it brings back the entire ordeal. Sometimes we get a snippet. Sometimes it's a smell, it's a taste, it's a feeling, but we have all of these different ways of remembering the occurrence. But sometimes, depending on our age, we might have suppressed that memory so far in the back of our minds that that's all we know is just a memory of it, but we don't still understand it. So then what we do is we also go steps deeper to help the kids understand exactly what it is. And we do have licensed therapists that they do work with, so that they're able to really uncover what they've been through, begin to understand it, and then we move towards progressing through it. Um, and so I feel like, through that, they're able to get just everything from it. They're first understanding it, then they're learning how to communicate through it. So that once we get to that ending phase where we're uncovering it, they have all the tools they need to really be able to identify and communicate exactly what it is to the people around them. And then our second program is we have a mentoring program. And so the kids are actually partnered with a mentor who is 24 and up,
Nice.
who has been through the same trauma as them. So, for instance, if a child is going through the divorce or separation of parents, they will be partnered with someone who parents were also divorced or separated at their age or near their age. And we just have a wide range of different traumas that we will actually partner the children with. And so we're super excited for that too, because I think that a lot of kids nowadays, they feel alone. They feel like they're the only ones going through it, and if they're not, they're kind of leaning towards their friends, and it's like your friend can't help you.
Correct.
We love to think that our friends can help us through these things, but they cannot.
Mm-mm.
So having that trusted adult and that trusted mentor who is on the other side of it, they might be successful, they might be working, have already worked through it. And so having them as their mentor, we're really seeing an impact on how they're able to progress through. But yeah,
Beautiful. I love
thank
it.
you.
So the first program is building that awareness of what trauma is, right? So that they're able to identify traces of trauma in their lives and the triggers, right?
Right.
That speak to that trauma. And then in the other program, by now they will have known what their trauma is, and they can have a mentor that speaks to the specific trauma they have, that they have labeled. But oh
Right.
my goodness, the power of awareness, because I love how you start off with awareness. It is
Right.
getting to know what's going on first. Am I traumatized? What is the trauma? What is the definition of trauma? Because we are using that word so often now, it's become a popular a word that people just, oh my
Right.
God, I'm traumatized. No, honey, you fell down because you were wearing heels that you couldn't afford to walk in. Just stop. They didn't, it's kind of like how we're using the word depressed. Now, I just
Gaslight.
gaslight. Oh my gosh. I just really love when we have the types of conversation that bring awareness to what is really true. Right. So I love that your first program speaks to defining trauma and then identifying it. So let's talk a little bit more about the definition of trauma. Let's have a better understanding of it. And what are the different types of trauma?
Okay. So trauma, and I love saying the definition because I don't think a lot of people recognize it. Trauma is not the actual event. It is the reaction to an event that a child feels.
Let me find out. Okay.
It is the reaction. So a lot of times people think, oh, a car crash is traumatic. It's not the car crash that was traumatic. It was the feeling that that child was left with following the car crash. So maybe they were frightened, they were scared. That is the part that is traumatic, and that is the part that we're going to be discussing. Even the thought of a popular one is, like abandonment. It is not the idea of the parent walking away, the parent being incarcerated, the parent dying. That
Mm-hmm.
is not the part, it is the part of loneliness that we have to attack with that child. The part that they feel like they were left, the part that they feel like they were abandoned. That emotion is what is connected to that traumatic event. That is the part that we are attacking. And so that's why I do tell a lot of people that a lot of time children continue to feel these traumatic experiences not because of the actual event but because that feeling might be connected in a lot of different events that they've gone through, and that is why they're traumatized. So until you help them to understand that emotion, and to help them identify the fact that, hey, look, this is not the end all be all.
Mm-hmm.
A great example that I like to use is my father was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember feeling anxious. When he was over in Iraq, I just constantly felt anxious. I would watch the news. Anytime I saw that soldiers were killed, I am waiting up, waiting for my dad to call because I'm like, okay, I need to know that he's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, I always had so much anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my grandfather passed when I was in first or second grade. I believe it was second grade because it was 2002. So I was in second grade, and I had that anxious feeling because it was like, oh my gosh, like, what if my dad dies? Then I will have nobody. And then it wasn't until 2018 when my ex-boyfriend, who he was my boyfriend all throughout college, all 4 years, he passed. And that feeling came back.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling people until you deal with that emotion, you cannot heal through that trauma
Mm-hmm.
because that emotion is going to come back in other areas of your life, and you're going to feel the same way you felt when your dad was in Iraq and when your grandfather died. Like all of those come back. So that's the feeling we have to attack
Mm-hmm.
to the point where now, if people were to leave or to die or things like that, that feeling may not be so strong on me because I've understood and identified the fact that it was me feeling like I was not going to have that male figure that I needed in my life, that abandonment that I felt like I was going to be missing from my life. But sometimes you just got to know, like, you'll be okay. And I remember thinking, like, after my ex died, I'm okay. I'm still standing. Like, I am still here. I'm still going. All is okay. Like, it is not the end all be all.
Right.
My father is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is trauma.
Right. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for using your story to properly define trauma. Because, as you said, like this emotion will keep showing up if we don't deal with it. It doesn't matter what the event, because
Right.
these were three different events that you mentioned. Right. And I also want to thank you for being such a great daughter to your dad who was away so many times. And thanks to your dad, to your family, really, for just holding down a fort for us.
Thank
We really
you.
appreciate y'all. But
Thank you.
yeah, these were three different incidents, but
Right.
same emotion. And so
Right.
unless that was dealt with, the trauma isn't really being addressed.
Exactly. And
Mhm.
I think that that is the confusion when it comes to trauma, because it is an emotion that is felt when we go through traumatic experiences. And so that is what we are addressing when we are going through the program with our children. We are having them identify what exactly emotion did you feel here and here, because we have to connect the dots to
Mhm.
help them begin to heal through what they've been through and really understand that, hey, look, I know what you thought in that moment, which is why this emotion was connected to it. However, look at us now. You know, we have to move it. Well, not really move. We do have to move through it, but really heal through it so that we can understand that we're on the other side, and we cannot continue to harbor that feeling and that emotion with any other traumatic experiences that we go through, because honestly, it does us a disservice. And that's why I say we have to be able to define our traumas. We cannot allow it to define us.
Mm.
Um, and it sounds small, but it is such a big difference.
It is actually not small. It is. It's not small at all. It's literally telling me that white is black and black is white now.
Right.
It's so different. Like I was seeing trauma as black all along, and now you're telling me no, it's actually white. So it's a big
Right.
contrast. I want to speak on the different types of trauma. Are there different types of trauma?
There are different types of trauma. So there is acute,
Hmm.
chronic, complex.
So then what do we mean by acute? So we have acute, chronic, and complex. What is acute?
So acute is a single event that causes you or puts you in danger. So that's like your car accident. Maybe you're in a tornado, a hurricane. Like that is a single event that is like, oh my gosh, I was scared for my life. I did not know what was about to happen. Chronic is one of those that is repeated. Like maybe it's bullying, maybe it's domestic violence. Maybe it is, I always like to say environmental. So say for instance, we grew up in a neighborhood or environment where we see things often.
Mhm.
That would be chronic. Like it's one of those that we are just repeatedly exposed to that type of trauma or stressful event. That would be chronic. And then complex is when we are like, it's repeated, but it's also like different types, if that makes sense. So, like, that is going to be like sexual assault, sexual abuse, torture, abandonment.
It's different events that trigger the same emotion.
Yes,
Okay.
that's a great way to put it. And so it's just it's multiple. So I like to say the biggest difference between chronic and complex is chronic is like the same type of repeated trauma. So maybe we are just repeatedly being bullied, or maybe we are repeatedly being exposed to domestic violence.
Hmm.
Whereas complex is going to be like multiple traumatic events. So for me, I went through complex. I went through sexual assault. I also went through the anxiety of my dad being gone. I went through the grief of my grandfather. So I went through complex traumas because it was a variety of different experiences. Um,
That spoke to the anxiety.
right.
Okay, got
And
you.
so I will say too, even with complex, it might be different emotions that arise from different ones. Because I know even from me being molested, I didn't have anxiety from that. I just did not like men touching me. Like,
Correct.
and I don't even know exactly like what emotion to call it because
Mhm.
I wasn't scared of men because I had a lot of guy friends. Um,
Mm.
but it was just the fact of when it came to, I remember in high school, I really only had one boyfriend. And he did not go to the same school as me. And I like that because it was like, I don't really have to deal with you. That sounds so wrong saying out loud. But and so you might have different emotions connected with different traumas, but that complex is just a variety of traumas that you've experienced.
Yeah. And I think even in the definition of the different types of trauma, it's still speaking to the event itself being the trauma.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that it has to take a lot of reframing and just kind of trying to get our brains to look at it differently and to understand trauma differently, that it is the emotions attached to the event. Because I could go through a car crash and you could go through a car crash, and I'm the one that's traumatized and you aren't.
Right.
So that's the same event, but I have feelings of anxiety that come from that. And so that's my trauma. But for you, that's just another event, an unfortunate event that you came out of quite easily, right?
And that is something I really want you to highlight because I don't think that people understand that, especially when it comes to childhood traumas. You and I can go through the exact same event and have significantly different perspectives and emotional attachments to that event. Because I can tell you now, I have been in car accidents and I have felt nothing around it.
It's so
Where
funny. It's funny because I've been through a car accident and that's become my trauma.
really,
Yes.
see,
Yeah.
well, I tell people all the time, I'm like, it is nothing to me. And it's funny because, mind you, I have never been in a plane crash, but I
Mm.
have so much anxiety around plane crash. And people are always looking at me like, why do you always have so much anxiety around plane crash? I don't know. But for some reason, takeoff and
Landing.
landing, it's tough for me. I've never been through a plane crash, but I have so much like trauma for some reason around that because every time I have this feeling, and I remember like I have to breathe, like do exercises for it because I'm like,
Um,
and so that's why I say, like, a lot of times what we may personally view as traumatic may not be traumatic to you, but I'm not going to discount your car accident trauma as not a big deal because, oh, I've been through a car accident and I had no
mhm.
feelings towards it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big part of it.
And you will have some barefaced people who gonna be like, girl, that's not trauma. Come on, whatever. And you know
Right,
what? I was guilty of it earlier today. I was like, people want to define their trauma as like they fell down because they couldn't wear heels, but maybe it is your trauma. The heels
maybe
example
it
that I
is.
gave, you wore heels and you couldn't walk in it and you fell down. But it's not the event, but it's the emotion attached to that. Because maybe what comes from that for you is lack of confidence. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And so, yeah, that's good. I caught myself, had to catch myself there. And it all started with awareness. I love
Right.
that. That's so good.
Right. 'Cause it is a big thing. And I think, like, I love the fact that different research studies are being done now because for so long it was just like, oh, well, this many kids have been through this event. So let's see if they're traumatized or not. And it's like, it's not the event, it's the feelings connected to it because we can all, I have been through storms, earthquakes, like all kind of things, and I have no emotional attachment to it. Other kids think of natural disasters as like the end all be all. And
Mm.
I'd be like, yeah, that was kind of cool. And they're like, what? And I'm like, maybe not. I
Right.
don't know. So that's why I say, studies like that where you're strictly looking at an event, it's gonna be skewed every time because a lot of children may feel a way towards it, a lot of children may not.
Mhm.
Even parents separating. Some children be thankful that their parents separated. They'd be like, oh my gosh, it's about time. Y'all was getting on my nerves.
Mhm.
Other kids are distraught. Like, they will never want to get married because, oh my gosh, my parents were married and they got separated, and I don't want to have to go through that.
Mm.
And it's just like, like it really shows you, like, we are not all the same. Like, we all definitely experience things differently, but that is why trauma is defined as the emotion and the feeling and not the event.
So how do we know when our emotions are letting us know, hey, this is trauma, this is trauma? How do we know that we're not just sad about something versus, oh, this my sadness is just a simple sadness versus a deeper sadness that is more trauma, a trauma response? How can I
Well,
tell the difference?
honestly, even a little bit of sadness may have a lot to do with trauma because I will say sometimes, especially us as adults, we try to trick ourselves into thinking like, hey, it's not that big of a deal. And so we discount ourselves into understanding something that very much so maybe was traumatic. So honestly, for me, I always tell people any kind of emotional difference that you notice in a person, that is probably like that person has probably been through something traumatic. Even for us, I think as women, we'd be a little different because we have hormonal changes. And so
Mm.
sometimes we really do have to like look and be like, okay, is this just my period? Or
Correct.
is,
Hmm.
because, honey, I have been going through things and I'm like, oh no, I'm kidding. All is well. Like, I did not know our girl was showing this week. And so I'm good. Um, But I will say, like, you really do have to pay attention to your emotions, your body changes. A lot of times I tell people if you feel tense in certain areas of your body, trauma is in your body. Trauma will literally hold itself in your shoulders and like right in like between like your knees,
Mhm.
like your hips is a great place, your lower back.
Mm.
Like trauma holds itself in your body. So a lot of times, if you may feel body weakness, if you may feel more depressed than usual, unmotivated, if you may just not feel like you're up to anything, sometimes looking back at the things that have happened to you, and I always tell people don't discount yourself and don't discount other people. Um, Validating everything is the first step to helping each other understand what we've been through. Because I know I tell people all the time, even like I have a best friend when she gave birth to her child, everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, you should be so happy like you have a child." And she's like, "I will never have a kid again because of the way that, they ended up rushing her to the hospital and they was rushing her to do this she is traumatized from her own birth story to the
Mm.
point where she was not able to enjoy the fact that, like this amazing event had happened and she has a child now because of the way that it was, went about. And I remember she called me and she was just crying. And I'm like, dude, you are traumatized. It is
Mm.
okay.
Mhm.
Like, you don't have to be traumatized by your child to
Yeah.
be traumatized by the events that led to your child being here. It is okay. And
Mhm.
she was just like, I needed reassurance that it is okay for me not to be happy. And it was like, it is okay.
Mm.
Like, if I was her, I would have been traumatized in those circumstances too. And so I think that that is a big thing. And for children, they don't understand half of their emotions anyway. So sometimes it is up to us as parents and caregivers to really be like, okay, like they're normally so bubbly. Why are you in your room so much?
Mm.
Why are you kind of like to yourself? Why aren't you going out? Why aren't you interacting?
Mhm.
Why don't you talk as much? A lot of those will help us to identify whether something more is going on as well.
Yeah. And I think the stereotypical view sometimes really trip us up because as you were talking about, noticing a child's behavior and how it can change and they're in their room, the typical parent would just be like, she's 16. It's
Right,
expected. She's a teenager. She's gonna be in that room all day. Meanwhile, sis dealing with a whole lot of stuff.
right,
And that goes back to the whole don't discount. Don't discount anybody else's feelings and don't discount your own, no matter how small you think it is or how intense or dramatic you might think it is. You might even feel shame because of how big you think it is that nobody should. Don't discount it, acknowledge it. What
right.
are some activities that you can suggest we do to acknowledge even the tiniest of emotional shift that we experience?
I tell people, especially parents, the biggest thing to do is to talk, but don't lecture.
Oh, that's good.
You know what I mean? A lot of times we hear things, and I mean, I'm not a parent, but like I know my parent, especially my dad, he's a man. His first thing to do is you come to him with a problem, he's trying to solve it. And I remember I had to teach him, don't solve my problems. I am not coming to you for advice. I am coming to you because I want you to hear me. I
Mm.
want you to understand where I am coming from. Don't lecture me. Don't tell me about all the good things that I could be doing to help my issue. Just
Mm.
listen. And
Mm-hmm.
I will say, like, now I love it because my dad and I, we are to a point where he's like, hey, do you want advice or do you want me to just listen? And
Oh,
I get
that's
to choose.
good. That's
You
good.
know what I mean? And so a lot of times, if you are a parent, if you're a caregiver, the best piece of advice is make your children feel safe enough to come and talk to where they feel like they can literally pour their hearts out and they don't have to worry about, okay, well, my mom's going to say this or she's going to say that or my dad's going to want to do this. And I don't want to do that. Like, I just want to feel heard.
Mm.
So just listen sometimes and then, excuse me, asking questions but not judgmental questions. So, and then too, when you see events going on, 9 out of 10 times in this society, the kids are also seeing it. When school shootings are going on, asking your child, so how are you feeling? Like, how does this make you feel? Do you want to stay home a few days? Do you need time to yourself? Do you need time to understand what's going on? Like, especially our Black men and our young Black boys, asking them, like, hey, I know that this is all on the news. What are your anxieties around it? Like, and then even sometimes as a Black father figure, coming and saying, hey, look, I'm scared. I don't like going outside of my house because I feel scared. Now he's going to feel safe saying, I'm scared too. Like, what if I'm just out hanging out with my friends and something happens? Like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to react? So really just making them feel safe enough to come talk and listen. Um, and then the next thing is really just getting them out. I think sometimes as adults, we always say life is life, you know what I mean? Like life is going on and we feel like we never have time. But making time for your kids, whether it's taking them on an adventure, making them feel part of your work. I know for my niece and nephew, whenever I have meetings, I try to make them feel part of it. I might tell them a little bit what's going on so that they can have little opinions about it and they can talk. But including them in your everyday activities if you don't have the time to take off, or
Mhm.
just making that extra time for them where it is like uninterrupted. I'm not going to answer my phone. I'm not going to communicate with anyone else. This is just you and I time. Those are like two of the best ways that you can really like help your children through what they're going through.
I love it. And I love that you mentioned parents, but that you also mentioned you as an aunt, right?
Right.
Because it can be for any adult who's around any child, because all adults are around children, right?
Right.
There are children everywhere. It could be just that next door neighbor who has two kids. You're going to interact with the child at some point in time. And so, taking heed to this really does help. I want to speak to the judgmental questions versus
Okay.
the clarifying questions. So
Right.
the judgmental question, I think the clarifying questions is the very opposite of the judgmental. The judgmental would more say, like, if your child comes to you or your child or even your peer comes to you and says, I'm scared about this. The judgmental question will go, you scared?
Why are you scared?
Why are you scared? The clarifying question would be, tell me a little bit more about that. What do you mean by scared?
So, right.
Yeah.
Like, explain more, and validating. I always tell people clarifying is validating.
Mhm.
You need to repeat what they've said back to them so
Mhm.
that they know too that you're listening and you're taking notes. So even if his child is like, I'm just scared because this happened to George Floyd and this happened to Breonna Taylor. And what if I'm just doing this? Well, I understand because Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, they brought out issues that's wrong with our justice system.
Mhm.
So reiterating what they've said helps them to also know, okay, they're paying attention to me, like they're really listening, they're taking heed, and they're going to continue to open up more and more.
Mhm.
However, those judgmental questions are going to close them off because they're going to be like, okay, well, I'm not welcomed here in a way,
Yes.
you know?
And I feel like every adult is a combination of the ages that they've experienced before. So for example, I'm 29 years old. So I'm still the 5-year old is still in me. The
Mm-hmm.
16-year old is still in me. And so you were speaking to how parents can communicate more effectively with their kids, but this can also work for me speaking to myself and to the child that is in me. So
Cool.
when I am having sit down sessions with myself and I'm doing journaling and I'm reflecting, I can ask myself these clarifying questions and not judgmental questions. Not, girl, why you scared? No, as opposed to, let's figure out where this emotion is coming from. Why do I feel this way? And just delve deep into it. Don't judge it, just observe it. Just
Right.
observe it.
And reassure your inner child. I love saying that because I tell people often, little me would be proud of me.
I love
Now,
it.
16-year-old me, we was doubting ourselves for a second. They're like, I don't know, girl. I don't think we're going to be able to do it. But 5-year-old me, I tell people, I'm like, 5-year-old me is looking at me like we did it.
Cheek
Like,
pressed.
right. Like we spoke up, we spoke out, and we're doing something about it. I'm proud. And even 16-year-old me is like, girl, we did better than I ever thought we would. We didn't go our route, but we went a better route. And
Yeah.
so even reassuring your inner child without invalidating those feelings of that inner child. You know what I mean? Is a big key, and it's something that we can do and apply, because one thing I love and hate. I love that my nephew is so in touch with his emotions, especially for him to be 7-year-old. Like, he will FaceTime me and he will be crying, and I'm like, hey, what's up, buddy? And he will tell me exactly what's wrong, and we will have a conversation, and I love that. But then sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so in touch with your feelings. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
But it's just so amazing to see. And even my niece, she will tell you exactly why she did something. Oh, I threw this away because they weren't listening to me, and I got upset because they weren't paying me attention. And I'm like, I get it. But is that the way that we should handle situations when we feel like we're not being listened to? Because then it's like, okay, let me reason with you because you understand it.
Yes.
Let me reason with you because now it's about choice making. And so it's like great. And I tell people all the time, I love that our generation, because I'm about to be 29 too, we are teaching these kids to be different. Be in touch with your emotions, reason with yourself, validate yourself. You know what I mean? These kids are like years above us, and I'm low-key like, wow, I'm kind of jealous of y'all because
Correct. Correct.
what?
Yeah, they come in here already knowing the coping mechanisms. They know how to express themselves. They know how to spell emotion. They know how to be emotive. They know. I'm very impressed.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it because even like the 6th graders that I go see, I see them every other week. Oh my gosh, they be understanding things. I remember one of them was like, yeah, I had a panic attack and I knew exactly what to do. And I'm like, if I had a panic attack, I was literally just sitting there panicking.
Correct.
Like,
and
what do you mean? You know what to do?
And go home and play the Game Boy.
Right. And be fine. And then be coaching their friends through it. And I'm like, the best that we had growing up was Degrassi. And even that was a hit or miss because some of that stuff I was like, I don't know if you should try that, guys. I don't know about that.
We had That's So Raven giving us jokes, so we don't feel as bad about the day we had. But we swept it under the rug. We didn't deal with it.
We had all kind of things, and I will say Raven was like great for us Black girls because she was phone, she was doing it, and we was like, okay, cool. But then it was just kind of like, I still don't really know how to deal with things that I'm going through except to laugh through it.
Correct. That's why we so funny today. That's one thing about it. We got
humor. I tell people because I'm not gonna lie, even with my ex, my friends be like, Tionna, chill out, because I have such dark humor about his death.
Too.
And people are like, I don't think that's healthy. And I'm like, it's not. All we know how to do is joke. Everything is a joke to us.
Correct.
Nowadays, nothing is funny. They be dead serious. And I'm always like,
oh, okay, we're doing this. Okay, cool. Deep talk. Deep talks.
Right. My bad. Different handling. These kids be so serious, and I just be like,
yeah. But yeah, they're very deep. And so I'm very interested in seeing what the world is going to look like with them as our leaders, because they're already so fantastic leaders already, honestly. Right. In the media world, we see, Marseille, we see all those kind of very self-aware individuals who already understand what leadership and confidence is, and they're pushing through it, and I'm just learning that today. I learned it today.
I love it, and I love to see it, and I tell people, and I hate to kill people off, But when these baby boomers like literally fall off from
Mhm.
our Senate and our House and everything, I'm like, watch the way that the entire like United States just changed.
It's gonna shift.
Because the way that our generation, the generation before us and after us are, the amount of things that we're not going to play with is like not even funny. Like it's going to be such a difference because that age gap won't exist anymore.
Correct.
And I do tell people because I'm like, first off, I look at Marseille, honey, my girl, I did not even realize how young she was.
Didn't know. I thought she was up here with us. She's not.
If not, I was like, the girl
Mm-mm.
don't even come outside and drink legally. Like,
Yeah.
what?
I'm very proud of them, and it makes me happy and excited about the future. And
Yes.
yeah, and then we got companies like Nutrient that's making sure that any part of them that has a little hiccup or obstacle that they're not identifying.
Come on over. We
Hey,
got
yeah, yes, you're right
you.
there. You and your team right there. And so you mentioned that you have licensed therapists on your team too.
Mhm.
There we go. So we have the professionals who know what mental health is and how to get you to that. We love
Right.
it.
I love it. And I also love how, so I don't want to say I'm particular, but everybody on our team associates with the mission and the cause personally in some way, some form. And I do love that because it's easier for all of us to speak to the kids when we ourselves identify and understand what they're going through, what they've been through, and wanting to see them come out on the other side.
Mhm.
Because I tell people all the time when people, especially children, have been through traumatic experiences, I hate that we say, oh, they're resilient. No, they're not. They are not. They are. They are resilient, but they should
Yeah.
not have to be resilient. They
Uh,
should have to have that backbone that's there to support them and
yeah.
understand them and help them through.
Mhm.
And I tell kids all the time, please quit describing yourselves as resilient because you should not have to be resilient. You should have people that's helping you through. And I do love that aspect of us is because no matter who our kids talk to, whether it's me, whether it's somebody else, they are going to get that same feeling of understanding and love and care because all of us individually understand where they are and how they need that hope and opportunity to come out on the other side.
Mhm.
Um, and so we're going to be offering scholarships coming up to like our high school and college students, right? Because I'm like, I need y'all to be able to keep going. And if giving y'all a scholarship where we break it down to different traumas that they've been through that they can apply for, I want to be able to celebrate their milestones and where they're going and where they've come from because I think that that's so important. And I think so often, especially in our Black and Brown communities, we don't have enough celebration for not being an athlete, not being a singer, not being a rapper, but just being a regular person and creating a regular career for yourself that impacts your community despite what you've been through.
Mm.
And so I'm excited for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm excited to see it. And I'm very happy that there's a company like this that exists that is ensuring to the best of your ability, to your team and your you and your team's ability, you're ensuring that we are alleviating the issues from Jump Street so that we're not dealing with adults who are unable to handle themselves. It's
Right.
self-management. The last thing I want to ask is what books, if any, are you reading right now?
So I have ADHD.
You start a book, can't finish it. I have a lot of books that are like halfway done and
Yes,
they're sitting on the shelf with a whole lot of dust particles on
literally.
them.
That is me because I literally will like tiptoe in different books and it depends on my mood. So I do have like fun books that I'm like I'm reading for the plot. Like
Uh-huh.
I Nicholas Sparks. Any of his novels, I will read. I don't know what it is about him.
What's the
I
genre?
So it's like love story,
Okay,
but when I
good.
tell you the plot is the same, it's always and that this might have a lot to do with my childhood. It's always like a military guy that has come home and he ends up meeting a girl in his hometown and they fall in love. I love it.
Interesting.
Right. I'm gonna read it every time.
Mhm.
But then I also love self-care books. And so like identifying different things about yourself and understanding how to get through. And leadership books, I'm gonna always read those. But I've actually been working on my own book.
Ooh, okay. The exclusive, the exclusive. Yeah, come on. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so I have been working on a book that is going to be called Living versus Surviving.
Ooh.
And I really want people to understand and identify that a lot of times when we've been through trauma, we are merely surviving. We have these survival instincts, and everything that we do, every decision we make is based on surviving. What can we do in this decision that can help us get to the next decision? And that's it, right? It's like that fight and flight. Like we are
Right.
constantly fighting. But then you have this side of life that is living, like you're enjoying, you have healed through your trauma, you have understood what that looks like, and now you have the opportunity to fully enjoy without having those traumatic responses to everything that you go through in life. So I have been working on that to
Yeah.
where I'm really just outlining the differences of what that looks like. And I really want to publish it and have 100% of it come back to the organization so that we can continue to grow and scale and benefit the children in our program. Because I do think that that is important. I think that a lot of adults do not realize that we are in survival mode. I know for a long time I was in survival mode, and I remember my therapist. Ooh, child. When she said this, I was like, you didn't have to attack me so hard. She said, when are you going to start living? I said,
Ooh. And you're like, but I have breath. Ain't I standing before you with life in me right now? She's like,
that's not the living I'm talking about. I'm saying, when are you going to live? When are you not going to think about all of the negative things that can happen? When are you not going to go through things twice? Because the first time is you figuring out how you're going to get through it. And the
Mhm.
second way is when you actually go through it and now you're going through it. When are you going to understand that life is not about trauma? It's about what you make on the other side of trauma, the
Mm.
things you do, the person you become, the impact you make. And she was like, it does not even have to be for other people. She was like, for you, you impact other people, but sometimes it's about impacting yourself. You are living for yourself.
Mhm.
And I remember she told me that, and I was like, well, I'll be darned because all this time I thought I was living.
Mm-mm. Drake said, because
Okay,
everybody dies, but not everybody lives. He said that.
okay,
Drake, Prophet Drake said that.
thank you. And so I was like, oh my gosh, and I will say, I understand the difference because even going through different trials nowadays, the way that I go through it now is completely different from the way that I would have went through it. And sometimes you do just have to have that trust um, to know that things are going to be better. And I think that when you're surviving, you just don't trust nothing. You don't trust no one. You are literally making decisions that may hurt people. They may hurt yourself.
Mhm.
But that survival mechanism kicks in. But when you live, you really are just trusting and yourself and the things that you've learned and the person that you are and the path that you're heading in. And so I think that that's important because I will say I do want everybody to experience living and
Mm.
the joy and the pain that comes with it. Because I tell people that song right there, joy and pain,
Mm.
it goes together for a reason. You're going to have pain, you're going to have joy. But it's okay because sometimes the pain does bring joy and sometimes the joy does bring pain. But when you're living, that trust is like the ultimate being of I'm gonna be okay regardless. Um, and so yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, when they think of the word living, they're thinking it means when I've achieved a certain goal, or
Hmm.
when I've made a certain amount of money, or when I'm on the other side of healing and I'm no longer dealing with having to go through the process of, healing from this trauma. However, living is the process itself, the process
Right.
of healing. And I learned that from another guest that was on here earlier, in the first episode of the Win podcast. um, it was Deja from She Inc. and she spoke to
Oh my
the
god, I love Deja.
I love both of them. I love Phoenix. I love
I
Deja.
love Phoenix
Yeah.
too. My girls. I
Yes.
love them.
Yes. So, she really had said something that was so healing for me, because I'm the kind of person who I like to just have steps. Steps 1 through 5, tell me how to get there and I'll be fine. Okay.
I love
And
them.
it's like when you get to step 5, you're healed, you're done, you're good. Boom. That's what I would like. However, that's not the way
Right.
it is. So she was like, you know what you need to do? You need to go through the steps and make that whole process the healing itself.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's how you enjoy life as it comes, as
Literally.
opposed to using your days worrying about when you're going to get to step 5, because you might not even live to see tomorrow anyways. So
Right.
today and what it is handing you, manage it, enjoy
Right.
it, let the process of healing heal you. Let it make you, let it develop you, let it cause you to grow, and that in and of itself is living.
Literally. When I tell you, amen, and that's why I say joy and pain is one and the same. You will feel joy in step one and pain in step one, but it's all part of living, you know? And so I do think that that's important for people to understand is you just gotta live. You gotta, and I will say, I do credit that to Africa. Being in South Africa helped me to understand that what I thought was living was not living
Mm.
because these kids and these families were happy with nothing. I mean,
With
they
what
had,
we think is nothing.
right, they had no electricity, no power, but they were smiling, they were happy, they had love, they had care. And I was sitting here like, I have been bamboozled my whole life into thinking that happiness is achieving awards and a family and children and this and that. But living and happiness is what you make it, you know?
Correct.
And I remember being the happiness in Africa because we literally had no plan. We just went with the flow of the day. Whatever the day took us, that is where it went. And I mean, we did so much living that to this day we are all connected because
Wow.
it was just a different type of living, you know? And I remember when we came back to the United States, we were all so sad because we
Mm.
realized, like, oh my gosh, these folks don't know how to live here.
Yeah.
And
And
you know,
the connection is what it is about, because
right,
I think when we get so caught up in achieving that particular goal and we define that goal as our happiness, it distracts us from connecting.
right,
And that's the problem, because we exist to connect. We are
right.
interdependent beings.
And
We're supposed to
compete.
be. Hmm.
And I think that that's another thing. We are taught that we're constantly competing with the person next to us. And I am so happy because I remember I told our board, we're not competing with anyone, we're collaborating with everyone.
Correct. That's gonna be
Anybody,
our next book. Compete versus collaborate.
right? Because I'm like, baby, there is so much connection and collaboration. Because like even with Deja and Phoenix, you know, I tell them all the time, whatever y'all need, let me know. I
Mhm.
post their posts all the time because I'm like, not everybody may need our services, but somebody may need theirs. I'm not competing with y'all to see who can get the most donors and sponsors and people. I want us all to win because at the end of the day, if that means that we have more people living and healing, That's what's important, And so, like, that is a thing too, because I feel like competition ruins us so much.
So much.
And I'm just like, hey, y'all, it's not that serious.
It's not.
Not that serious. And so I think that it all goes to it. And I'm happy to see our generation just waking up and understanding different things and realizing that like what we grew up being taught is not the way that it has to be anymore.
Mhm.
And we can do things differently and achieve higher goals, honestly. Because I tell people now, my biggest goal each day, I don't care about awards, I don't care about money. If I can impact one person's life a day, I'm good.
Mhm.
I have reached my ultimate goal, and every day I wake up with the same goal. We're going to impact one person, and that person can be myself. Maybe I need myself that day to get up and
Go.
impact and say, let's keep going. Or, hey, girl, you know what? We're going to rest. That
Mhm.
is still impactful.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love this conversation. This has been so enlightening. This has been just so encouraging, man. And I think that we have walked away with this understanding of how to communicate with children who may be dealing with trauma. We know what trauma is, okay? At this point in time, event versus emotion, we know it's not so much the event, but it is the emotion that comes from the event or however it is that you responded to that particular event. Don't discount your feelings.
Thank
No matter
you.
how small you think it is, do not discount it. And
Mhm.
everything that we learned here on how to communicate with a child, we can use that for ourselves to communicate with our inner child. I love that. Novaturient is changing the world, right? And I'm not just saying that so you blush. I'm not saying that so you blush. I mean, if you blush, that's good, but I'm not just saying that so you blush. I'm saying that because it's really true. I be trying to tell people, y'all, help the kids because the kids
Please.
are literally the future, y'all.
Literally.
And don't feel like because you're an adult that, oh, your time is up and, it's whatever. You too can help yourself. When you learn to help the kids, you learn to help yourself because you are a child too. You're just in a grown
Right.
woman and a grown man's body.
And I tell people I'm gonna read you a quote real quick. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me
But
see. Let
while
me
you
see.
look
Let me
for
see.
it, while you look for that, I wanted to speak to the kind of books that you were reading. Why I asked you what you were reading is because I always like to know where people's hearts are, where their mind is right now, what their mindset is.
Mhm.
We get to know who you are. We know what your mission is through Novaturient Inc. The kind of books that you read lets us know more about the kind of person that you are and how driven you are. So I noticed that you do self-care books, but you also read that novel because balance,
Right.
baby, balance.
Balance.
All right.
So the quote says, "As we serve others, we are working on ourselves. Every act, every word, every gesture of genuine compassion naturally nourishes our own hearts as well. It is not a question of who is healed first. When we attend to ourselves with compassion and mercy, more healing is made available for others. And when we serve others with an open and generous heart, great healing comes to us." So
And we
I
do,
tell people all the
yeah,
time,
go ahead.
right. So when you said that, I remembered and I was just like, there's so much healing in helping others and being there for other people because we really do learn a lot about ourselves and that compassion and that empathy goes so far. And so I always just tell people, don't discount even the little interactions that you have with people because you may not think that it made a difference to them, but it probably made a difference to you. And that's what we should all achieve to do. Is just make a little difference because a little difference creates a big wave. And before we know it, we have this entirely different, I don't want to say awoken, but emotionally awakened generation where we understand our emotions, we understand the different things that we are identifying with, and we're able to get each other on a different level.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I appreciate you, my friend. Tell people how they can contact you, where they can find you.
So you can find us at www.novaturian.inc,
Okay.
NovaturienTinc.org. And then our Instagram is Novaturian Inc. And then if you want to follow me personally, I am Tionna Michelle with 2 underscores, so Tionna Michelle spelled normal with 2 underscores. And I'm so excited for this. This was amazing. I loved it.
Good. I had a great time. Thank you so much.
Yay.
Learned and blessings on that book. You heard it here first.
Right. It's coming. I don't know
coming. You don't know when, but hey.
It's coming.
Every day you're doing something. Every day you add something.
Okay. Every day we're doing something towards it. So
there you go. All right. I appreciate you, Tionna. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much.
Have a good rest of the day. Have a great weekend.
Yes. You do the same.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, honey.